I just want to push our upcoming program before he starts. On April 18th, we're having Richard Peterling, who is a professor emeritus, and he just wrote this book, Boyhood Among the Woolies, which we have here, and he's going to be talking about the Basque culture a little bit and about his book being raised on this sheep ranch. So April 18th, if you'd like a flyer, we'll leave them up here. Thank you.
Hello, Raymond. I got to call you back later, but I'm giving a talk. I'm giving a talk at the library. Should put her on silent. Okay, go ahead. Well, I don't have a mic, and I want to make sure you can all hear me. So, can you in the back? Can you hear me all right? I'll try to enunciate. Can you hear me, Dennis?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
And if those in the back can't hear, you get to move up.
Yeah, there's plenty of chairs right here in front of me. I guess I should introduce myself. I didn't write that part down. I used to work at the BLM. I was the district archaeologist here for 23 years. Joan used to be my boss. But she was
It was a
happy.
tough job.
But I retired in 2018. And this project that I'm going to tell you about, I started working on it when I was 30 years old. No, 28 years old? Anyway, it was 1980. So I've been 32 years old. No, anyway, I was younger, way younger than I am now. And I worked for BLM as a temporary employee for a year. And me and my crew found a really cool site called Lost Dune, kind of out by the refuge headquarters. And I'll go into more detail as we go along, but I want to welcome everybody here, and thanks to the Harney County staff for setting up all their IT stuff. And it's a pleasure to speak to you about my favorite time in prehistory in southeastern Oregon. I have two sites that I'm working on right now, or have been. One of them is 36 times older than the other one. Rimrock Draw Rockshelter is 18,250. And these sites that I'm going to talk to you about tonight are 500 years old. So it's amazing the depth and the breadth of archaeology in Harney County in this area of Oregon. And feel free to ask questions along the way. I tried to make this as jargon-free as possible. But if you don't understand what a word means or whatever, or you have a question, please get with me. You don't have to say it until the end. I can never remember my questions if I say them until the end. I like this to be more of a discussion than a lecture. If it turns out it's just a lecture, I guess that's just the way it's going to be. I've revamped the slides on this thing. Oh gosh, I forgot my doodle here. I've revamped the slides on this thing because I wanted to approach the discussion first of all on the stuff that we found at these number of sites that I'm going to talk about. Almost all the stuff in these sites are rare, almost never found in Harney County. Many of them, of the traits I'm going to tell you about, aren't even found anywhere in Oregon or very few places in Oregon. So it's a really unique set of what we call an assemblage. An assemblage basically means any of the form tools, any kind of tooth enamel from animals, bones from animals, other kinds of stone tools. All that stuff is part of an assemblage. That's an archaeology jargon word. Anyway, so I've kind of come up with a theory that about 500 years ago, the Shoshone tribes in northern Nevada, southwestern Idaho, and maybe even extreme southeast Oregon, all ran out of buffalo to hunt. And at that same time, there were still buffalo in the Harney Basin. In fact, there were buffalo in the Harney Basin until the 1820s. And so my theory is that they basically did a short-term move following bison herds up here There hasn't been a whole lot of talk at the Burns Paiute about bison hunting, although I'm sure they did it. But the guys down in Nevada and SW Idaho, I think they used buffalo as a much more prominent piece of their pie than other tribes. And I also want to mention too that Shoshone and Paiute are in the same language family. They're not mutually intelligible, but they're pretty close. So they could probably speak to each other without any problem. And even today at McDermott, there's a Shoshone Paiute reservation. They're living on the same reservation, even though they are slightly different representatives of the Numa, they call it. I'm going to show some slides twice, so be patient with me. I'm sorry if I'm redundant. Okay. I got to aim it. Which do I aim at? This or that? Technical difficulty.
Oh, I had it when you started.
Well, I was able to switch them earlier.
Can I see?
Anyway, this
So
next,
your title slide, where did you get that from? Is it an artist representation?
well, it's a Plains Indian deal. If you look at these people, they're Plains Indians. But when I was looking online for images, I could not find Indians not on horses hunting bison, because this group of sites was occupied before they got the horse, by about 200 years. So they were doing it on foot, and that was the only one I could find on foot. But I liked it, so. But you have to get a lot closer when you're on foot.
I can switch the slides for now.
You will? Okay. Okay, there's one more. Okay, this is a large pot. It's probably about this high, about this round, flat bottom. It is a classic example, actually one of the fanciest examples I've ever seen of what they call Shoshone ware. And Shoshone ware is found in Idaho. I mean, wherever the Shoshones are, basically, and I'll show you a map in a little while. Wherever the Shoshones are, there's Shoshone pottery. And so anyway, this is a beauty. This is partially reassembled by me and a student at Washington State University. And it's the most complete fancy example of Shoshone ware I've ever seen in the literature. This was first found in Oregon in 1980, Harney County. Ceramics of any kind are very rarely found in Oregon, and there's only 5 sites in this area that contain ceramics. And I imagine most of you probably didn't know any of the sites containing ceramics. Needless to say, when my partners and I found this site, we were a little surprised.
Was that on the surface?
Yeah. These sites are usually no deeper than about 10, 15 centimeters. So they're really, this site was actually destroyed in a wildfire. We had a wildfire, I can't even remember the name of it now, Jonah maybe could, that went through the site, burned it all, and there was big sage in there, a lot of good grass, and it burned everything. And within 6 months, every hearth that we hadn't dug previously was exposed. They lost, I imagine it lost 20 centimeters of sediment just from the wind blowing through it after the fire.
What year was that fire?
Oh, God. I would say 2002 maybe. I know Billy Anderson. Yeah, Bill Anderson and I went out there with a 4-wheeler and a bunch of Indian ricegrass seed and sprayed the crap out of it. So it's got great ricegrass, but it has no stratigraphy anymore. And stratigraphy means those nice cool layers that we like to excavate. Anyway, next slide, please. Is it working?
I think so.
The wrong way.
Oh, that's weird. Oh, I was pushing the wrong button.
You're not supposed to admit that.
Don't laugh, Dennis. Anyway, these arrow points are what you find at these sites. And the ones on the left are cottonwood triangular. The ones on the right are desert side notch. These points are really common in places like Idaho, Nevada, Wyoming, southern Montana, anywhere kind of straddling the Rockies to the east or north of us. Go ahead.
Is that white clear, is that a chalcedony or is that an agate or
I call that one clearwood, I call that agate or chalcedony.
chalcedony?
Chalcedony and chert are two of
Yeah,
the kind of, I guess you call them fancy stones we have around here,
yeah.
but they're not super common.
Right.
I'll get into that a lot later.
Okay.
But at any rate, when you find, usually on survey crews when we're out doing our surveys in the summertime, in a season we might find 2 of these points. When you find a site like this, you're usually going to find 30 or more.
Wow.
And I think Loston had more like 50 or 60 points that came from it. These are from all different sites that I'm going to talk about, but they're desert side knots are my favorite point. They're just beautiful little point. And the people that made them are really good flint knappers. But they're infrequently found in this area. This is a braiding stone used to straighten arrow shafts, grind bone and antler tools for flint knapping or weaving. And it's made out of a kind of a unique volcanic sandstone, only found in the upper Hawaii River basin. And braiding stones, I think when I was at BLM for 23 years, I think we found 3 the whole time I was there. So they're rare. You just don't see them, especially made out of this type of stone. The next slide is another topic about flint knapping. On the left is an example of what they call a polyhedral core. It's flat on the bottom. Well, where they strike it and knock flakes off is the flat side. The pointy side is where all the flakes go to. So if you look at these flakes on the right, you'll see some of them are pretty pointy at one end and they're more flat at the other end. These are all obsidian blades or polyhedral core on the left. These are almost unique to this area in Oregon. And the only sites you find them at are the ones that I've been talking about. I had never seen a core like that, and I'd never seen a blade until we started working on these sites. So, and the literature in Oregon for blades and blade cores like this, it's almost nothing out there. Wait, wrong way. Okay, the top picture, 2 pictures are buffalo tooth enamel. In fact, the one on the left is partially complete, which is good. I'll tell you why later. It's rare to see bone or tooth enamel on prehistoric sites around here. I mean, occasionally you'll see a scatter of broken rock and you might see a couple of chunks of burned bone. That's not super unusual, but to find hundreds and hundreds of tooth fragments laying on the surface of the site, it's definitely not normal. I mean, and every site we've found so far has a really dense scattering of teeth fragments. And I'm supposed to explain how we can date tooth enamel. Well, thanks to Rimrock Draw Rockshelter, which is 36 times older than this site, they are dating non-fossilized but ancient, extinct mammal teeth at their site. And I didn't know you could do that. They're doing camel and bison mostly. And they're getting really good luck. Results of their date, they've dated the same dates twice and they're within 25 years of each other every time. So I got the idea, these sites that I'm talking about are really buried shallowly. I really don't want to dig any holes in them because when you dig a hole in something that's easily eroded, it makes it erode even faster. So we are using tooth enamel to get our dates now. And we send them off to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and then they get prepared by a guy there who's world famous at dating stuff. And then we send them off to University of California, Irvine, who's got the best radiocarbon lab in the United States. So anyway, but we keep getting back the same dates, around 500 years. Yeah?
Are you a part of the Rimrock Draw Shelter's excavation or any knowledge on anything about updates on it? Because when I went to the discussion here, they had mentioned they had also found a hair and they were waiting on DNA analysis. Do you
Yeah,
know
I
that?
found the site.
Yeah, I was gonna say, he found the site.
I found the
Oh,
site.
that's really cool. Okay.
And Pat O'Grady, who's now moved and taken my old job at BLM,
Okay.
he used to be at the U of O, he's the head dude out there on the excavation. And they have found hundreds of hairs,
Wow. Okay.
and some of them are human.
Yeah, and they were waiting an analysis. Did you know if they found any?
They haven't gone any further, it's gonna be very expensive, it's like
Okay.
$1,500 a hair to get
Oh my
DNA
gosh.
test on.
Okay.
So, but we want to DNA some of them because it'll be the oldest DNA, human DNA in
Yeah.
the North, in
Yeah. Rewrite
North
history.
America. So, and the whole world's interested in sites that old here. I just saw it on a program on an English channel, Time Team. It's called Time Team, and they had a bunch of news flashes from various places, and they flashed on Rimrock Draw.
Oh, cool.
So, anyway,
You need to go fund me.
Yeah, big time.
Then you can get a
That's not a
grant
bad
if
idea.
if everybody has that idea, then
That's not a
you'd
bad
think
idea.
somebody would provide
Well,
a grant.
the thing that is possible is there's a guy in Netherlands who, anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
He came out for free and did all the DNA on the Paisley Cave site for U of O. And I don't think he even knows about the site, but he needs to know. Because, this is way older than that. It's 4,000 years older than Paisley Cave. So anyway,
Is Paisley Cave where they found the sandal, or is that?
no, they found human not fossilized, but they found human coprolites, which is good. And they were able
So
to,
Katie was the one who climbed in there because she was the littlest, and she had to do
That was
DNA to exclude her.
her.
wasn't that at the Conley Caves?
Yeah, that wasn't a Paisley.
Oh, no, that was on a site on our district.
Yeah,
Teeny little overhang with rock art in the ceiling.
yeah, she had to be the one to crawl in there. They had to take her DNA to exclude it, which I
Yeah.
thought was fascinating.
Yeah, I had to give hair when I go out to Rimrock.
So that you don't
They don't,
get
so-
something.
But they're pouring out dirt from 13 feet down and there's hairs sticking out of it.
Wow.
Wow.
So, it's not likely it came from a person that was working there. So, anyway, these bones you see are tiny scraps. Most of them are probably about the size of a quarter, maybe a little bigger. And they all have you can see they've all been affected by fire, they're kind of ashy colored and so on. These are probably, they were cooked with a method called, let's see, I'm going to get to that later. But anyway, they were crushed on an anvil stone and basically into little chunks to expose all the marrow, and then they were boiled to get basically a bone soup out of them. It's rich in protein and fat. They didn't let anything go to waste.
So did the local Native Americans, did they use that?
Same method.
Berries to make like
They did.
because I grew up in northern Montana and we call it pemmican, and they would mix that bone marrow and fat with berries and then dry it, and they carried it with them as a long-term
According
food storage.
to our discussion today, the Paiutes don't do pemmican.
Okay.
But I've never heard them talk about it and never really, and Tony was saying she'd been out there with them and talked to her about pemmican, and they all looked at her like,
What is
What's
it? What
pemmican?
is it?
So, but I know it's a Plains Indian deal for sure.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's called stone boiling, and basically you get a bunch of little rocks hot in the fire, and you have a vessel that's waterproof. It could be a basket, it could be a pot. And as the rocks get hot, you throw them in there. As they cool off, you pull them back out and put them in the fire. You just keep doing that until what you cooked is done, basically. And these are relatively common. You see them once in a while, but nothing like you do at these sites. Okay. This is a picture of a bunch of different types of tools. The top row are all knife fragments found at these sites. You'll notice on the right-hand side there's 2 obsidian ones, but everything else in that row is made out of agate or chalcedony or chert. The bottom row, there's only one obsidian artifact, and that's a little drill over there. The rest of them are made out of chert or agate. And it's really interesting. That's another thing that's unique about these sites, is that we're in the middle of Obsidianville. I mean, I'll show you a map on the next slide. There's obsidian sources everywhere. There are a few places on BLM Burns that are not that heavily obsidian, but most places, you don't have to walk very far to get obsidian around here. I mean, I'm digging up my garden down here on Birch Street. But so we were looking at these, and I'm not saying that all the artifacts at these sites are made out of chert or agate, but there's a lot of them, a high proportion. And there's also a really high proportion of chert or agate plates from napping. And that's also really strange, except for just in a few places in this part of the world.
Is that because they're more durable than obsidian?
Well, I'll explain that to you next. I think.
Glad you asked.
Here's a map of all the obsidian sources basically in this county and most of Malheur County and part of Lake County. And the three places that you get chert that I know of around here are those three orange stars, or red stars. Stinking Water Pass or Stinking Water Creek. Eagle's Nest chert, there's a huge chert quarry there. And then Tule Lake Rim has got a lot of chert on the east side of the Alvord. So, you know, when you get closer to these sources on almost all the sites, no matter how old they are, we'll find a lot more chert, and we'll find more agate. But once you get 20 miles or 10 miles away, it falls right off.
Is chert the chips? Is that what chert is?
Well, chert is it's called a cryptocrystalline silicate, but it basically it's like obsidian in the fact that you can nap it and it makes a sharp edge, but it's a lot more durable than obsidian. So those tools that we were looking at a second ago, like the drills, scrapers, any of these, you can re-nap them and sharpen them, but they last a lot longer. Obsidian is very brittle, it breaks really easy. So that's why obsidian is used on knives and arrow points, because they want them to break if they go inside of a deer or elk or buffalo or whatever. So
Were less common colors more, like, were any of them going to be more used for like ceremony or anything like that? So I've been on walks and found like green ones. I just wondered if they were.
Well, I'll show you one. There's a scraper right on the lower left-hand corner. That is from a chert quarry in Nevada called Tosawi.
Wow.
And Tosawi means white knife. Not all of Tosawi is pure white, but I've got another slide I'll show you of Tosawi. But we have Tosawi flakes at 7 of the 22 sites I'm going to tell you about.
So it just
Or
has
artifacts.
the red inclusions
Yeah,
and
and
maybe the little speckles.
And most of it has this glittery kind of sparkle to it. And it's barite crystals. Yeah.
So this is how you're figuring out that they must have traveled from Idaho and Nevada, because they have these pieces on them that are, okay.
Yeah, there's a long ways. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
200 miles from Lost Dune 1
I'm just
to the
trying
Tosawi quarry.
wow.
And I've read about the Tosawi some. Their ethnography, there was a new ethnography put out here last year I read, and a couple other things. And I think that ethnography's here. That's where I borrowed it from. And it's amazing to have an ethnography written in 2021 or whatever it was.
Wow.
But at any rate, yeah, he was talking about, and other authors were talking about how the Tosawis, they would almost use this chert quarry for everything because they didn't have obsidian there.
Yeah.
But they considered it sacred. And so it had hunting power, it had a lot of other attributes that they really took advantage of. And I'm thinking the people that came up here from down there brought a lot of Tosawi with them. Because there's one site we've got that's probably got over 1,000 Tosawi flakes on it.
Oh, that's
on the surface.
interesting. Yeah.
Not little teeny ones, I mean bigger ones even. So I think they were taking their power material with them. Anyway, those are obsidian sources all over the place. It even gets denser if you go to the west, towards Bend. But you wouldn't have to walk far to get obsidian around here. Okay, here's a piece of Tosawi chert that I was just telling you about.
Sparkling.
It's kind of hard to see, but there's like glittery, sparkly things. There are inclusions called barite,
Okay.
and they occur. That's kind of one of the things that helps you figure out if it's Tosawi or not. There was a master's student over at Utah State that did her master's thesis on using an XRF. You know what the XRF gun is? XRF is used, X-ray refraction. It's used to determine the chemical composition of rocks and that kind of thing. And she got a pretty good signature for Tosawi. We sent a bunch of samples from here. They tested them, and almost all of them came back as Tosawi.
Wow.
So, which was really a nice breakthrough. I'm kind of glad all this time has gone on. I mean, we're only talking 44 years now. I'm kind of glad that we've taken our time because some of these new methods didn't exist when I first found it. Okay. Okay, the previous slides, I'll just read it from here instead of up from there. Previous slide shows a series of uncommon to very rare artifacts, animal bones and teeth, that were all found together in one site in 1980 when I was a temporary archaeological crew leader at Burns BLM. To find one or two of these artifacts at a site would be unusual, but to find them all together and other traits I'll speak about next is extraordinary. I mean, the chances are really, really, really slim that you get all this stuff together. It wasn't a signature assemblage. They are the foundation of my theory or cultural complex named the Shoshone complex. And this is where I used to start the slides right here. But I wanted to kind of zone in on how rare all this stuff is. The next slides will show various artifacts, faunal specimens, and other traits that comprise of the Shoshone complex, which I've abbreviated to be SC. The sites are unique as a group to other sites of similar age in this part of Oregon. Identification of 22 sites has been done by finding or visiting them in the field or discovering them in the literature. Each site is numbered in sequence with LD as a prefix. Sites discovered in the literature require a field visit to determine if they contain more elements of the Shoshone complex assemblage than was found in the original documentation that I was able to get. It is likely that once these field visits are complete, the list of traits at each site will grow. And all the traits were found at the type site, which is Lost Dune 1. And it was found in 1980. None of the other sites contain all of the elements found at LD1. Several LD2, LD3, LD5, LD6, LD13, and 16 of the sites are missing 1 to 3 traits, while the rest are missing more. And to describe that, remember that site of that braider I showed you a while ago, okay? It was on the sea. We found the site up in the foothills of the Steens, on the northwest edge of the Steens. We had a braiding stone, that little piece of a braiding stone. We had one white chert desert side notch point and a couple of white plates.
Wow.
So I included them on this list because they have 3 unusual things going on there. I'm a little bit maybe too loosey-goosey how I categorized all these together, but I figure I have to go to the field for about half of them to find them and look at them to see. The most important traits of the SC assemblage are the presence of Shoshone or intermountain ceramics, desert side notch and cottonwood triangular arrow points, Tosawi chert, bison tooth enamel and small burned bone fragments, chert artifacts and flakes in a region dominated with numerous obsidian sources, and polyhedral cores and or blades, usually of obsidian. Usually when in the field, when you first find one of these sites, these traits start popping up one after the other. In fact, I had a discussion, and this wasn't in my slides, but I was at a meeting in Albuquerque, New Mexico, or at Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I was talking to this grad student that goes to the University of Nevada, Reno. And they've been doing a bunch of survey out in the lakes, like Crump Lake, Heart Lake, that whole string of lakes. And they were looking for really old stuff, like Clovis, really old type artifacts. But they found this one site that was really cool. It had desert side notch points. And I said, well, did it have a lot of chert flakes, white chert flakes? He goes, yeah, there was bunches of them. Did it have, I kept asking these trait questions, and that's when the theory went bing in my brain, because he was telling me exactly what I was seeing at Lost Dune 1, and just about that time, one of my crew found Lost Dune 2 and 3 on surveys, so things started building like a locomotive taking off from the station. So that's where I'm at right now with this. I'm still looking. Okay. I had a lot of help. Oh gosh, I guess I skipped all kinds of stuff, didn't I? No, I didn't. Hit the wrong button again.
Going backwards.
Am I really?
Yep.
I'm supposed to be going down. What did I do? Last word, oh. The business end is at the end.
But it works. That's the crazy thing.
It works even if I don't know how to
It
use it.
needs an arrow.
I'm glad that there's some comedy relief here. I got a little sunburn when I was down in Florida, so I don't look quite so embarrassed. This map was drawn by a guy named Bill Lyons who did his PhD dissertation on this site in 1995 and 6 and 7 on Lost Dune 1. And he sourced ceramic pieces, he sourced chert, he sourced obsidian, he sourced the sandstone. And you look at those circles and they're all kind of sort of aiming to the southeast. And then the 22 sites that I've come up with since then are the red stars that are located kind of within all that. But Bill died about 6 months ago. He never had a chance to write his pottery paper. So Shoshone pottery in Oregon I wrote a paper on it in the 80s, but really not that many people in Oregon know about us having pottery here. Okay, down. There's a map of it again. Lost Dune is located in the big star, right kind of in the north middle of all this stuff, and then there's sites on Vail District in Malheur County. There are sites clear down to the Nevada border. I'm sure if I went across the border, there'd be a lot more. And then there's sites out west in Lakeview District. The weird thing is, since I was the BLM district archaeologist in Burns, I really didn't get a chance to go out and check out other districts. It wasn't part of my job. So I'm kind of limited to whatever I was able to figure out either at my computer or in the field. I'm sure if someone took the bull by the horns and started doing surveys with this stuff in mind in both districts on both sides of this, they'd find many more sites. Okay. Here's the map I was telling you about. That is a map of the entire Numic language group, which includes Paiute, Chemehuevi, is that how you say that, Suzanne? I'm not going to try the Kawa-Isu anyway, but all the way up to northern Paiute, and then if you look to the right of northern Paiute, almost all of it is Shoshone. It goes all the way up to halfway through Wyoming into Montana and part of Wyoming. So it's a huge, huge group of languages. Getting behind. And those arrows, those red arrows on the map that are heading northwest, that's how kind of the direction I think the people were coming in from. Okay. At every PowerPoint presentation, you have to have a table. I put this in there as kind of a joke because I hate tables in PowerPoint presentations, but I got a dandy for you. It's even got color and everything. And I'm sure the guys in the back probably can't read any of it. If you had my glasses on, you probably could. But that's basically how I keep track of which sites have which trait. And you can see LD1 has got all checks in all the boxes. Then everybody else has got a few boxes missing or a lot of boxes missing or whatever. But
We had quite a few of Shoshone ceramic ware, which is so unusual.
we have 5 sites in Harney County that have.
We have 6 check marks.
There's 6 check marks. Yeah, well, 2 of them are on Vail.
Oh,
And I'm counting one of the site, Skull Creek Dunes. There's 3 sites basically in that valley. And they have very, very small amounts. Not a spindle wheel, too. Yeah, pottery.
wow.
Yeah, it's Clovis Dunes. So those are kind of little teeny sites that have a little teeny bit. But the other 2 sites that we have, Lost Dune 1 and Lost Dune, what is it?
5.
No,
17.
17. Yeah, that one was found a couple years ago by some contractors working for BLM. And it's got, we think it has 1 pot on it, but we've gathered about 50 shirts so far. And Lost Dune 1 had almost 500 shirts. Had 5 different pots. Okay, back to the arrow points.
I have a question.
Oh, sorry.
You can move on, but what are some examples of site frames?
We have one site, Lost Dune 3, where we think we have actual residential structures.
Okay.
Only basically just rock alignments that look like they might be wiki-up size, which they could easily be because Paiutes and Shoshone both built wiki-ups. And wiki-ups being like, they're kind of like a little low teepee, maybe more rounded on top, covered with matting, grass matting, or tule matting. So we found some what looked like site furniture there, and we've got 3 anvil stones where they crush bones, but not a lot, and not on a lot of groundstone either. That's another interesting thing. Usually, late prehistoric sites, people were grinding steed, a lot of steed, and monos and metates or hopper mortars were really common. These sites, I think, out of all the sites we found, I think we found groundstone in about 4 of them, which is kind of unusual. They have more of a hunting look when they do a plant processing and hunting look. Anyway, lower right-hand corner is a point called Rose Spring Corner Notch. It is the most common arrow point in the Harney Basin around here. We find these all the time, and find lots of them all the time. They're occasionally at these SC sites, but Cottonwood Triangular and Desert Side Notch usually dominate by a lot. You'll get 1 Rose Spring and like 20 Desert Side Notches, maybe 10 Cottonwood Triangulars. So they're very dominant. Now this next slide you've never seen before. Well, maybe you did. It's back to these things. And almost all these sites have knives, which are not super uncommon, but a well-made knife, you just don't find those every day, even a fragment out doing survey. And like I said before, a lot of them tend to be made out of chert or agate, which is weird.
What is that? What kind of stone is that colorful one there?
Well, which
The
one?
big one.
I don't know. It's really strange.
It's pretty.
It's clear agate, and it's got this black shadow running down the middle of it. You talk
No, I
about,
don't mean that one. That
oh,
is
here, let me use my pointer. I haven't done that yet.
the one next there, that one.
That's chert, and it's multicolored. I don't,
That's true.
but I have no idea. A lot of these cherts, some of these were found on the Owyhee. I don't know which ones. That's supposed to be there.
Yeah.
That's supposed to be up there. But they're from all over the place. Anyway, next slide, we're back to the broken teeth and stuff. The one interesting thing about this is that this one right here, you can see where it was smashed by a stone on an anvil. See that chunk of stone right there, or bone that kind of pushed in? That's where the percussion of that rock, when it busted the bone, went. I found that was Lost Dune 5 over in Lakeview. But the biggest piece of bone we've ever got is this part of a long bone that has had the marrow extracted, and this scapula. They're almost never very big. Gosh, I think I've shown all these lines before. Oh, I want to tell you about obsidian hydration dating. Any of you ever heard of it?
Yes.
Besides archaeologists? It's a way, oh, and by the way, Sandra Obradovich's husband, great uncle, invented obsidian hydration dating.
Wow.
I did my master's thesis on it, and one of the first papers I got had an Obradovich on the title. Couldn't believe it. Anyway, obsidian hydration dating, basically obsidian, when you first flake it, it's anhydrous. It doesn't have any water in it. But as the years go on, after you've flaked it, it starts to suck up the water. And if you're really into minutia, you can do your thesis on it like I did and spend all summer looking. These hydration rims are usually only, I think we get measured down to a half a micron. But these guys, you can tell they're really closely datable. These guys aren't from the same place. This was viewed on private land, but the landowner found out about what I was doing and allowed me to send it in to get it XRF'd, and also to do hydration on it, which I thought was amazing.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful polyhedral core, and it has an OH rind of 1.8 microns. And almost all the rest of the arrow points and these blades, oops, wrong button. Jeez, where am I? Oh, I'm going. Oh, I just got there. Okay. Almost all the points and all of these blades that I measured hydration lines on, they're almost always between 1.7 and 2.1. So that shows you that you can't say exactly how old they are based on obsidian hydration, but you can say they're of the same general age. That's why you can tell fake obsidian tools. If someone wants to sell you a really cool looking Clovis planet point or some other really neat deal, you just send it to this guy over in say over in Corrales, and she'll tell you if it's real or not, because if it isn't, if it's real, it'll have a hydration on it, usually. So I was supposed to explain it. Did I explain it okay? Mm-hmm. Okay, here's a shot of the 5 pots from Lost in 1. And the fancy dancy one is in the right-hand corner, upper right-hand corner. But they always have flat bottoms. That's kind of their key characteristic. In fact, the pottery in Southern California that's in the Paiute country there usually has a rounded bottom, but it looks a lot like this. It's brownware. It's not fired at a really high temperature, so it's kind of easy to break. But it's still pottery. I mean, I'll take it.
Where are these stored at now?
These are at the University of Oregon Museum of Natural and Cultural History,
Oh, very good.
unfortunately.
Oh, that's a good spot for them to be there in a museum.
Well, yeah, but I was bummed because the last time I went into the museum there, I had my whole family with
much
me.
Stuff.
And they took the pot, this pot was on display for years. And they took it out of the exhibit. And it wasn't there. I helped put that back together again.
Why doesn't Harney County have it?
Because there's no federally qualified repositories in this town. If the Burns Paiute people could get some money and turn their little building down there across from the chamber, if they could get somebody and meet those requirements, they could be a repository. And I would love to see everything that BLM ever picked up put in there instead of all the way in Eugene. Because if you're a student wanting to do some work, some research, especially if you're a student, if you're a professor, you're okay. But if you're a student and you go over there and want to borrow some or even look at some, they'll give you a hard time. I mean, that's a good thing, so things don't get lost. But it's a bad thing because it's really inaccessible to your average person working on a master's or even an undergraduate degree.
Or 70 years from now, they'll just sell the collections like OSU did because they decide they don't need them and there's no space for them.
Do they sell?
You can buy all kinds of cool Asian collections from OSU for dollars.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Huh.
I'm sure some professor's rolling over in his grave, but
Yeah. Well, we always kid about, now how much money do you think we can get on this broken elk over here? Because that's the most common point we ever find. Anyway, we have 5 other sites in Harney County that have this kind of ceramic on them. Lost in 1 and by far is the most complicated, big. Lost in 17 is smaller and still has a number of sherds. In fact, I found a dentalium shell there, shell bead. Dentaliums are a long ways from here.
Wow.
In the ocean. So they're really cool sites. Let's see, I have another picture of a couple of braiders. That's the one we found at Lost Dune 15. These ones came from Lost Dune 1. Another toast, the same toast we played again. 8 of the 22 sites, and I've only looked at 11 of them, seen them personally. So 8 of those 11 sites that I've got my eyes on, we have Toasby shirt from there. And I expect the number of sites with Toasby on the rise if I ever get a chance to go look at the other sites. You guys need to ask questions when I'm stalling for time.
So you were saying if you ever get a chance, so in your retirement, you're still out there exploring if you get an opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to get more opportunities. I have too many hobbies. and a daughter that lives in Florida.
Yeah.
So I don't get, my time is a lot more taken up than it used to be when I was employed. Because when you're employed, you have the excuse, oh, I can't get to it because I got a full-time job. When you retire, there's no excuse, you know. Anyway, this is Lost Dune 2, and this was one of the best anvil stones. And if you can see this right there, where the color is gone? That's a patina that builds up in the rock just by being weathered. But all the weathering has been taken off inside kind of that circle. That's where they're breaking bones on, right there. And then around this site, there's all these fire-cracked rocks everywhere. And I'm sure that's the remains of stone boiling when they were cooking the bones. And this site, that site was really a wild one. We found it on the east side of the Alport. I mean, I was shocked.
Yeah.
And then we have another site, Lost Dune 13, that's on the north end of the Alport. So I wasn't expecting him there, but
I've seen sites like that and I didn't know what it was. And that's before Katie became an archaeologist.
right.
Schooled me on this stuff.
Well,
You could frisk his pockets to make sure he
Yeah,
wasn't removing things.
If I ever go out with him, I'll be sure.
Yeah.
I already talked about stone boiling and crushing stones. And the last, I guess would be the last trait that's unique about these sites is 16 out of the 22, that's 73%, are located in a place that conceals them from a major stream or lake valley. So Lost Dune 1 is in some dunes, you know it's there until you walk into it. This site is around a corner where Lake Catlow or Lake Alvord used to be, in some dunes. But from the main part of the valley, you really can't see this site. I think it was an intentional location of their sites. They wanted to stay away from the buffalo so they wouldn't spook them and know that, and keep out of their sight until they were ready to hunt. And it's evident almost every site's that way. Let's see. Okay, it was almost the last slide. Wow, you guys have survived. All available evidence strongly suggests that the people who occupied the SC sites were from a different region. Stone, ceramic temper. We have one pot from Lost Dune 1 that has mica for temper, which makes it really attractive. It's the big kahuna pot. It's really attractive because it's got that sparkle of the mica in it. As an aside there. Stone, ceramic temper, churned and abrader, geologic sourcing was done by Bill Lyons for his PhD dissertation. It indicates these other people were from extreme southeast Oregon, southwest Idaho, and or northern Nevada, pretty much outside of the northern Paiute homelands, and they moved into the Paiute homeland following buffalo herds. And let me back up a little. I'm not trying to suggest that these Indian people had territory, like they had this area where they wouldn't go across that line because they knew some Shoshone would go after them. Because they were related, they intermarried, they visited each other when they ran into each other in the field or at winter camps. So they weren't like two separate, they were separate languages slightly, but they weren't enemies because they were slightly different from each other. You know what I mean? So when I say territory, I like the word homeland better, because as we know, it probably isn't perfect, but we do know where they were kind of centered, and that's how they got that map. And centered at the time of European invasion, basically. Studies of prehistoric buffalo herds in this region indicate that most buffalo herds died out by 1500 AD in northern Nevada, but still flourished in eastern Oregon and south central Idaho. The Little Ice Age, a worldwide centuries-long cooling event, was at its height during this time. Cooler annual temperatures and increased precipitation encouraged grasslands, the main dietary requirement for buffalo. It is possible that a shift in the jet stream during this time caused drought in northern Nevada, while wetter climate conditions favored buffalo in areas to the north. And that's really, during these climate shifts like that, you get a jet stream that wanders into property where it hasn't been before. And you'll get an area just get pounded with rain or snow, and somebody else that's, about 400 miles away is getting nothing, especially in this part of the world. And so I think what happened was the buffalo were dying out where they were, and they just started hunting buffalo north, and eventually got all the way to at least as far as the Mount Hood Refuge headquarters area. This is my funny slide. That's called Tyrannosaurus side-notched. We found this at Lost in 16 near the Nevada-Oregon border. It's basically a desert side-notch point that's been turned into what looks like, it looks like, to me, like Tyrannosaurus rex. It's not. It's a pendant though, I think, and it's tiny also.
It looks like jewelry.
You see the penny right there? It's really tiny. It is likely that new Shoshone complex sites will someday be found in south central Oregon, northern Nevada, southwest and southwestern Idaho. In fact, many sites in Idaho, Nevada, Wyoming, and Utah contain Shoshone-ware ceramics. The difficulty of dealing with published sources that I've had is that only the ceramics and desert side-notched and or caught by triangular points are reported. They don't talk about blades. I don't even think they even know what a blade is sometimes. They talk about plagues, but they don't get specific about what they saw. Like I hardly ever see mention of teeth fragments or bone chunks or that kind of stuff. The next work I need to do is relocate and visit sites in Mount Hood County. Once I get a full recording of what's on those sites, I'll know for sure if they're Shoshone complex eligible. Sounds like a field trip.
I hope you get
Take
several
the little
of
trailer
those.
out, park it
Yeah.
with the salt on a hot summer's day. Thanks for listening, and if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
I have a question about, you said the bison persisted here probably until the 1820s or thereabouts. Were they hunted by indigenous people for that, up until that time period?
I don't know for sure.
Okay.
I know the skeletons were noted by Hudson's Bay people when they came into this area in 1826 or 7. They saw skeletons. Now, skeletons last a long time out here. I don't know how long it takes a cow to bones to crumble, but it's got to be decades. So they could have all died earlier, but the radiocarbon dates, this research that was done, they did radiocarbon dates of a bunch of bison skulls from around here. Some of the ones that were dug up or exposed during the Malheur Lake when it went dry in the 30s. They were all coming up with anywhere from 150 to 200 years up to about 1,000 years ago. And we know there are prehistoric bison here that are much, much older, but I don't think they're the same species in Rimrock Draw as these are. These are the modern buffalo as opposed to super prehistoric species.
So I've read about Rimrock Draw, I think I have.
Yeah.
And where is it? I can't remember.
It's out, Patrick always says it's near Wagentire or Riley, I can't remember.
It's the Gap Ranch. That's
It's
what I
the
was
Gap.
saying.
It's off the Gap Ranch Road, about 3 miles in before the road really turns bad. You make a right, the site's down in a little. You barely see the rim rock from the road, but it's down in that little canyon. But
So Patrick moved here?
Patrick quit at the museum,
God,
And
after I
he
tried
took-
to hire him so many years ago.
and he did. He couldn't. His wife wouldn't move here,
Oh.
and she still hasn't. But
Oh.
but he's renting a place over by my neighborhood, and he was really excited to come here. So I feel real good about him being here,
That's
taking
great.
over. Yeah, he's pretty happy. I asked him how things were going, and he kind of went. But he's got the archaeology down. He's worked so much in this county that he knows the archaeology. His biggest thing he doesn't know is BLM minutia. How do I apply for a credit card? Well, this training is only 18 hours long.
Yeah.
And then a background check will take 6. I worked there temporarily for a couple of years after I retired because they had nobody on staff for a while, and they did a background check, an interview with me the day before I ran out of money the first year. That was pretty funny, because I already had my card to get in and everything, and I get interviewed like the day before my last day there.
The wheels go slowly.
Yeah, they do. Anybody else have any questions? Does this make sense, kinda?
Yeah, it does. It's really cool.
Thank you for doing it.
Sure.
Exciting. Very
So-
exciting.
Good.
So if we find some of these really cool things, and can we put a little GPS location and say, take a picture? And
Yeah.
Send it to you and say,
Yeah, I'd love to. I
check
mean,
it out.
I've got a pretty good report from someone that has a ranch on the north side of Mount Lake that had a complete pot on a site there.
Whoa.
I haven't had the time or the guts to go talk to him about it, but I need to, because apparently it's still there.
Wow.
I'd definitely like to see that place. Just getting out to these sites, but if you walk into a site and you see a lot of little points about this long that are side notched and basal notched and made out of obsidian or chert or whatever, and you see a scatter of white tooth fragments that look like the ones in the slide, you're almost positively on a Shoshone complex site. So we found 22. I'm sure there's hundreds out there.
Yeah.
But there's never going to, I mean, we've got, I think BLM has close to 5,000 sites on their site register, and this is 22 out of that. In fact, not all these are on Burns either. They're
And that's just Burnsfield.
yeah.
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 So just think about
Yeah.
how that is
Is it
across the
common to
state.
find mapping camps or sites, or where they just map?
Oh.
Because I found several spots where that's all I found was flakes, and it looked like that's what they were doing, was sitting
Well,
there.
that's the most common site in this part of the world. Is
So-
what we
so
call
what I
limit
was-
scatters.
Under the impression was that if it's the obsidian, it's probably the Paiute, and it's probably about anywhere from 100 and 7,000 years old, right? Is that
Well,
probably?
there's a theory about the Paiute, and I don't know if I believe it.
Okay.
It's called the mnemic expansion theory. And it was originally, it came up, the guy that came up with it was a linguistics guy. And the one thing that I've noticed about Paiute language, and I don't know how to speak it, but I remember going to one of my favorite places in Eastern California, going into an Indian casino. It's a Paiute tribe there. And looked at their menu, and it had the same, almost exact same words in Paiute as our old, we used to have a casino here, and they had a restaurant. I think Tukwahoni is one of the words that I saw on their recipe and their menu and our menu. So their languages, normally when people move, they take their language with them.
Yeah.
And the longer that someone's in an area, isolated maybe from the original people that spoke the language, their language is going to change a lot over a long time. But if they've been separated for only, say, a couple hundred years, their language isn't going to change that much. And that's the way it is all the way from here to Eastern California.
Yeah.
So that's why this guy decided that these people had moved out of Southern California basically a couple thousand years ago, and they ended up here 1,500 years ago, 1,200 years ago. I don't know if I believe it.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, they say they've been here for time immemorial,
Yeah.
and they have. Somebody that spoke a native language has lived in Harney County for at least 18,250 years.
That's enough. Yeah.
And if we ever get any DNA evidence from those hairs
Yes.
from Rimrock Draw, we'll be able to see where they maybe originated from in the old world. That's the big excitement in all the geneticist people. They want to know where the first people that hit North America came
Yeah.
from.
Yeah.
So
I would pay for one of those hairs to get analyzed.
I
What did you say it
know.
was, $1,500?
$1,500 a sample.
I would do that.
Would you really?
Yeah.
Well, I was talking to Pat today about funding. Maybe we should do a GoFundMe.
I think it would work, I'm sure of it.
I think that'd be a lot easier than a National Science Foundation grant.
A lot easier than getting it from through the archaeology budget.
Yeah, they're real. I mean, we supported the field school for every year I was there, and usually it was somewhere between 25,000 and 40,000 a year. But what we were basically supporting was Patrick. Everybody that works in the museum has to basically make their salary, and what they usually do it on is highway projects. But in this case, we paid Patrick to write and catalog artifacts and do all the stuff to collect the data so he could eventually write. That's what he was doing. The field school pays for itself because tuition, they paid enough tuition that covers his salary and all the food and everything. So, so we've been his biggest supporter, but he has Sacramento Archaeology Society. They give him money all the time. And they go down, and then I think he's been given some money by ASCO, Archaeological Society of Central Oregon, because he gives them a talk every year. So.
Sounds like University of Oregon owes you guys money.
They what?
University of Oregon owes you money to do that.
Well, Patrick and the University of Oregon were having a little problem when he left. Not a rumor. They just didn't get along.
So it
I don't
sounds
know.
like we should have a booth at the roadshow about
That's a great
donating to that.
Or all of the events, the school gravel grinder, the
Yeah.
fair, like let's get it do a fundraiser.
And actually, we'd like you to mention the roadshow.
Yeah, okay. We have a unique event every year in June. And this year it's going to be on June 22nd.
Yeah.
From 10 till 3.
The Heinz Park.
Heinz Park. It's called the Archaeology Culture Keepers Roadshow. We changed the name so much.
Right.
It's something like that.
We have a bunch of people that are doing primitive skills, like making baskets, making leather goods, and that kind of
Crushing
stuff.
rock and painting and
Yeah, there was a woman last year that she's an artist that's been out of Rimrock Draw.
showing you what you could eat and how to make the past little cracker things or whatever.
Yeah, I served them last year, the cookies.
That was you?
Yeah.
Okay, I remember you.
Yeah, I'm gonna have them again.
Well, we want you to bring your artifacts.
And we want people
So
to
can we
bring,
bring artifacts?
We want
Yeah.
to.
Okay.
We encourage that.
we had a little trouble at first because some of the old folks had collections and they were a little nervous about bringing them in with all those federales standing around. But that's not the reason we do this. We do this to share information.
Because I have some pretty interesting ones, and some of them are true.
Bring them. Yeah. I mean, we'd love to have you. We have experts that we designate, like Patrick is one, I'm one. And I think if your daughter comes,
Yeah.
she'll be the historic archaeology wizard.
Right.
So we have people you can ask questions. We usually have a paleontologist there from the fossil beds. We want to have a geologist there this year, and we're going to have Nick, right? You said he was an amateur geologist?
Kenny.
Oh, Kenny, sorry. Got the wrong brother. Kenny is kind of I guess, and we're going to tap him for being a geologist. But anyway.
It's the 22nd? Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what we have food booths. This year we might even have basket food available. There's a band playing music the whole time. And then that evening, down at the Elks, we'll have some talks on archaeology in this area and history in this area.
And
Plus-
trivia.
Plus we'll have trivia. Plus we'll have we're hoping to get fast food down there too. We can talk Reynolds into doing that.
Yeah.
And let's see what else. That's in the evening. We'll have beer and wine.
And it's
Whiskey.
called?
Archaeology on Tap.
Cool.
So, and we were the second town in Oregon to do this after Portland State. They started it in the park blocks in Portland, and then they asked us if we'd like to do it here, and we said sure. So
Well, it
this
was
is
such a big event. We were only going to do it 1 year. And now I think we're going on our 4th.
well, we're going on our 7th all year
I can see
altogether
that.
because we did it on Zoom
Such
for 2 years.
Such a big event.
Yeah, it's too bad it's only 1 day because we go into a lot of effort to kind of get it together. But anyway,
Last year we had 500 people, 35 dogs, and 3 three-legged dogs.
three-legged dogs. Don't forget that. What are the chances of seeing three-legged dogs at one event? Minimal.
Just come for that. Who cares about the archaeology?
Yeah,
Only one little skirmish.
only had one skirmish. No major dog fights. But it was a really good show last year. We had a lot of people there.
500.
And we have people that are coming there specifically for that from way out of town.
And the theme this year is?
The archaeology of food.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah.
cool.
So I'm going to bring more biscuits. And, I have to go out and dig roots first.
Did
Pardon?
you use onions, the wild onion here?
Yeah, I used wild onions, but I didn't use enough.
Okay.
I can't taste it anymore, so
Right.
I can't smell it either, so I'm really not the best person to be doing this. But wild onions, about 4 different kinds of bitter biscuit root, bitter root, Indian carrots. I think that's it. And I put them in a food processor when they were dried, buzzed them up, and then added kind of like salt, baking powder, baking soda. A
And
little
that's all
bit of,
stuff found around here, huh? I've seen
Yeah.
that in
The
Nevada.
garlic is up.
I dug it all up in the stinking waters.
Oh, yeah? That's
Yeah.
where I rock them, just so you know.
Yeah, and well, Stinking Water Creek is supposed to be really good. for-
Super good.
Yeah.
Yeah, oak and blue maggots and a lot of things are UV reactive, I'm learning, and yeah. It's a rock hound's paradise.
Some friend of mine who's no longer living here, he and his girlfriend dug up a tree trunk, fossilized, agatized tree trunk.
Was it the stinking oak wood, the white with the black center? That's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Amazing. That's some of the best stuff in the world.
I think,
We have a really nice example at the museum.
yeah, the museum's got a beauty about that big around.
Wow.
So I think that's all I had to pass on. There's going to be a Basque guy talking about his Basque childhood here. When is that?
April 18th, I do believe, from 6 to 7.
And I think she put somebody put flyers
Yeah,
up
I've
for
put
it
up some
somewhere.
And then anybody interested in the fact that Burns used to be a radar base for the Air Force way
Yes.
back when.
Yes.
That's gonna be April 5th at the Chamber. at
April
6.
5th at the Chamber Community Center, they're going to be trying to get some of the people that actually work there to be there and talk about, because I know almost nothing about that. I know it was a 60s thing, right? 50s and 60s?
No, it was,
Yeah, they
we
took it
moved
out
here in,
late.
yeah, we moved here in
60s.
64 and they were here in.
58,
Yeah.
my college roommate was born in Burns, Oregon.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
There were a lot of people who married those guys, like Pauline Wehrman. Alan was an Air Force guy.
Oh, really?
And I think, who else, or something, and then it flipped out of my head. There was another person that I know married one of them and stayed here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Roger, the Scotsman, who works on the,
Right, yeah,
Roger's from,
yeah.
that's how he got out here.
And then there's even people that are here, families that started in Burns that were CCC people out of Gap Ranch and around.
Yeah.
So my son's grandfather was Dr. L.E. Hibbard. If you didn't-
Hibbard?
Yeah, that's my son's grandfather. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. My old man who's much older. His dad served at the radar base back in '60.
So maybe is he still alive?
Yes.
And he lives here?
Yes.
He should come to that.
I told
Yeah,
him
you
that.
should. The Hibbard's real historical family
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
So that's my old man's family and my son's family. Yeah.
Cool. Any other comments, questions? Oh, and then is there anything else coming up speech-wise or talk-wise?
I know, not after the roadshow,
Yeah.
probably.
But after the Air Force thing.
No, just the.
Oh, the Basque guy.
So when is that Air Force thing again?
The 5th of April.
Of April,
Oh,
at
that's
the
just
Chamber,
coming
that's
right up.
pretty quick, yeah.
And it'll be in the newspaper.
It should be in the newspaper.
Next week.
And
it'll
don't
be in
forget the
paper.
Old Time
Fiddlers.
Fiddlers hosting the
Right.
Jamboree in June, the weekend before the Archaeology Roadshow.
The what,
Right.
Jamboree?
It's the old,
Old fiddlers,
Time
old time fiddlers.
Ooh.
Old time music, so it's not all fiddle music. There's bluegrass and folk and
That's fun. That
Yeah.
sounds fun.
it is
We
great.
have
And
that
it
every
says
year.
at the
The bike
fair,
race is always that weekend as well.
well, I will tell you that.
We're gonna have a
The
big
bike-
after party this
The
year.
bike race has only been going X number of years. The Old Time Fiddlers have been doing this for 40 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
The bike
Well,
race
we need to
is
combine those two.
It's the 13th, 14th, and 15th at the fairgrounds. Plenty of camping, music all day, every day.
They started really to catch people going to the Weezer thing, didn't
We
they?
still do.
And that's when it got
It's
started.
just, it's the weekend before
Right,
Weezer
yeah.
starts, yeah.
I
And in
know.
fact, I have to go practice music,
Well,
so
you better go
I'm gonna
do
play.
it.
It was great seeing you.
Good
Thank
seeing
you
you
for
too,
coming and doing.
Thank you, Scott.
show.
There's another. You want